Good afternoon and welcome to Warren Evans' Teletown Hall event involving small businesses in the midst of COVID-19. My name is Khalil Rahal. I am an assistant county executive with Wayne County, and I'll be your moderator today. We all know COVID-19 has caused a lot of health concerns, and those health concerns and the spread of the virus has resulted in many executive orders. And as such, today, our commerce has stopped. Businesses are shut down, unemployment is high, and relief cannot come fast enough. Like most pandemics, when the crisis hits, it typically affects the most vulnerable amongst us the worst. And small businesses are no exception to that. While bigger businesses and corporations may have access to information and resources and relief, smaller businesses oftentimes face many challenges. Their expenses are the same, their revenues are down, and they have a lot of questions revolving the kind of relief and assistance that's available to them. Today, we're in pursuit of the answers to those questions. And we have an expert panel that will be brought to you from many different walks of life, both the public and private sectors and many different levels of government. On our panel, we have the Wayne County Executive, the county executive for the largest county in the state of Michigan. We have the chairman of Tcf Financial, which is the largest bank in the state of Michigan. We've got a star in the Michigan legislature, Abdullah Hammoud, and we have two of the most widely known names in Congress, Congresswoman Dingell and Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. Once again, my name is Khalil Rahal, and I'll be moderating this event. The way this will work is we are going to host spotlight conversations in about 10 to 20-minute intervals with the guests. That will be followed by 2-minute question and answers by folks at home in the virtual audience. We are streaming live both on Facebook Live and WhatsApp Media. You can ask your questions on both web streams. And we have folks backstage in the virtual backstage from the SBA, the SBDC, and the Wayne County Economic Development Corporation, all ready to hopefully answer your questions in real time. We have a lot of people. We will not get to every answer today. In the event that we can, we will be sure to follow up with folks in the very near future. First up, let's go to my guest, the Wayne County Executive, Mr. Warren Evans. Sir, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Khalil, and really appreciate this opportunity.
Well, let's start with breaking news first. The Wayne County Commission just approved the $500,000 grant to Insight Hospital to rehab the old Vibra Hospital in Lincoln Park that's been shut down for 2 years. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, we think that's big. It's obviously big from an economic development point of view, from the point of view of getting a hospital back in operation that can help us with the COVID fight right now, but long term brings from 200 to 400 new jobs. Be a neurosurgery hospital. It's great for the community, borders Detroit and Lincoln Park. So then we're really excited to see that, and knowing that later this week they'll start taking some patients, believe it or not. So that's really, really good news. I also want to take a second to thank the other folks on the panel here today. Gary Torgow from Tcf Financial, strong friend and partner. Our two fighters in Congress. We have a few more, but the two that are here today, Rashida Tlaib and Debbie Dingell, and our lion in the State House of Representatives, Abdullah Hammoud. So thank you very much for joining us here today from all of the different perspectives that I think are important relative to this discussion.
Now, you have emerged as a leader on small business efforts recently. Tell us a little bit why such an emphasis needs to be put on small businesses at this time.
Well, as you know, Khalil, as the leader in that area for Wayne County, my vision has always been for the last 5 or 6 years that as it relates to economic development, our role needs to be to save existing businesses, help existing businesses, get rid of some of the red tape and pitfalls that are problematic for small businesses, because they're really the background of the county. It's not that we're against attracting new businesses. We've done very well at that. But our heart and soul is small businesses. And so probably out of blind luck, but I'll say I had it planned. We beefed up our economic development department significantly about 6 months ago, with an emphasis on working very closely with small businesses. And that ideally situated us for the right people with the right connections, understanding the right problems when this pandemic hit. And so we have been all over it for the last month.
Well, that investment into economic development then has actually taken you in the position where you designed a program with TCF Bank.
Yeah, and we think that's a great program. It's a loan program that will loan between $10,000 and $50,000. I think are the numbers to small businesses that qualify, and those small businesses now include all of Wayne County, because we put a second layer on that loan program, and we're talking about roughly $10 million now worth of loan opportunities, and so we see that as critically important because two things: bureaucracies, just by their very nature, are slow to operate, and the bigger you get, the slower it generally gets. And so while there may be state and federal dollars available, and there are, and things are coming, the county is more the speedboat, and the federal government is more the battleship that doesn't turn around near as quickly. So the importance for us was to get money in the hands of the small businesses while they still had an opportunity to do something constructive with it. And so I'm glad to say, and I know Gary will talk about when it gets around to him, that we've actually put $750,000 actually in the hands of some small businesses already, and have millions of others that have been approved in loans that are finishing up that process. And so, getting money is one thing, but if you get it too late to keep you afloat, it doesn't do much good.
And then about a week and a half ago, you made an announcement with Mayor Mike Duggan at Eastern Market saying you were in receipt of $1.6 million for small business grants. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, now that's a program with the state of Michigan that equally significant and important. It's the biggest grant for the state of Michigan, which I guess is not too surprising since we're coming from the biggest county, but it is a collaborative with the city of Detroit administering it, but us going together, both Detroit and Wayne County, to seek the funds. And those are other dollars that will be available to small businesses in Wayne County. And we're trying not to leave any stones unturned. I mean, everything from small business loans to even Wayne County's Health Choice, which is a health benefit program that the county sponsors, that we've talked to and been able to get them to make a 20% reduction in the premiums for the rest of this year, which again, taking 25% off anything at a time when you're bleeding is helpful. So we're trying to leave no stone unturned in terms of what we can do and assist our small businesses.
Yeah, I think that's so important. This grant application, the $1.6 million, was open for the better part of 3 or 5 days. How many grant applications did you get, and did you get a good response? Was there a real need for something like this?
Oh, absolutely. The response to surveys was really significant, in the thousands, and that's, if you've ever done surveys, a lot of people get apathetic about the survey, and so when you get that kind of response, and the response is saying the same things that we intuitively knew, which is, we have no customers, we have no money coming in, but the rent, the utilities, and these things go on. And if they go on too long without any help, we won't be able to survive. So yeah, people did respond significantly to the survey. And we've also had thousands of applications and a team of people scoring them almost around the clock to try to hurry up and get this money out. I mean, and the people doing a lot of it, at least in-house, obviously TCF Bank's doing a lot, but our in-house people thought they were furloughed for a couple of weeks when this hit. And I think as soon as they got home and kind of put their heads together, they thought, along with us, about how to try to put these programs together. And they've been enthusiastically working very, very hard to do what the mission is, which is help our small businesses.
a lot of small businesses that do business in Wayne County have to come to the county for business license. They usually do that right around April 30th. April 30th is when the executive order expires, and that's coming up very, very soon. Do you have any plans to keep that order in place or change anything?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to, hopefully we're able to start getting the business licenses out, but we're going to extend the deadline through June or July, I think, so that people have time to do that too. That's really important, and we want to spur those licenses and businesses on, and so I think that will give people at least some breathing room. That when we start to come out of this, they still have some time to get important things done.
Great. I want to remind everybody in our audience that if you have questions for the county executive, please shoot them in to either our Facebook Live page as you're following the county's website, or the WhatsApp media page, and we will make sure to ask your question if we get to it. Another question, the county executive. So as businesses start to open up, they will be working with your health department, which is one of the largest local health departments in the state. What can they expect in terms of advice on how to reopen their business?
Well, I think what they can expect is that we will certainly be responsive to try to help with individual businesses to make sure that they meet the requirements of social distancing and other things that we'll still try to keep in place as best we can, because the last thing we want is to open up and have to close down again because of the spread of the virus. So we are going to make the health department very, very proactive in trying to help guidelines and help monitor. And in those instances where people don't use the best judgment and the best discretion, they will be out there to report back and find the violations too. But their goal is to help get us back to healthy, happy times, not to be problematic.
Got it. Now, we have a lot of questions coming in here, so I'm not going to be able to ask all of them, but we certainly have people in our waiting room that can get to some of your questions. Mr. County Executive, when do you think the businesses will be able to open back up in Wayne County?
I wish I could answer that question, and I'm not going to beat around it like I see national pundits do with dates and all of that. When the science, it should be driven by when the science tells us we can open up with an appropriate plan for opening up so that people don't get to the position where we have an influx of the virus again and have to shut down again. That would be the death knell to many businesses. And so I want to open up as quickly as we can, but I want to do it right. And I don't think there should ever be a balance between what's financially good for business and what's healthy for citizens. On that two-tier process, I'm always going to line up for what's healthy with citizens.
Well, Mr. County Executive, I want to thank you for your time here. Let me just say that you have put county employees on a paid furlough. You were the first municipality to do it. You've done it at least 2 or 3 times now. You haven't laid anybody off or asked anybody to scale back. And that is a sign that you have fixed the county's finances to be able to afford those things, and you've invested into small businesses more than most. So on behalf of the people watching and myself here, we want to thank you very much.
Well, thank you. 5 years ago, I asked them to make significant sacrifices, and they did. And at the end of the day, government should only be about people providing services to other people, and hopefully we're doing that on both ends.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Next up, we have the chairman of the largest financial institution in the state of Michigan, the chairman of Tcf Financial, Mr. Gary Torgow. Mr. Torgow, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Khalil?
I'm good, thank you. Listen, in times of crisis, oftentimes people look to their corporate leaders for assistance, and Tcf Financial has been contributing dramatically to the community. First off, TCF Center, there's going to be 1,000 beds in there. Tell us a little bit about that, and tell us all that you are doing to contribute to fix or help with this cause.
Well, first, Khalil, I want to thank you and the Wayne County Commission, the County Executive Warren Evans, for inviting us to participate today. It's the first time in my lifetime, as it is yours, that the whole world is united against a common enemy. We know these are difficult times. It's a lot of suffering, but we are very optimistic. We are full of faith, and we are very hopeful for the future of our city and our county and our state and the whole country and the world. And it's great for us to be able to have these opportunities to talk. I thank the distinguished colleagues and public servants who are with me today, and I'm just very grateful to be here. So TCF Center is up and running. I'm extremely grateful to the government for helping through that process. There are patients there today. We're hoping that it will not be necessary in a short time, but I think the TCF Center is ready and fully equipped.
Well, let's talk about all the things though that your company is doing. I mean, people need testing right now. You know, the something near and dear to my heart, the lack of public transportation in this region is making it very difficult for low-income people to be able to get to testing sites. TCF funded a bunch of public transportation for folks to be able to get to the state fairgrounds, and they pushed off mortgages. You've helped fund the staff of the NAACP. Tell us a little bit about all the things that your bank is doing.
Well, first, really, we're just part of a lot of great corporate business support that are doing wonderful things in this area. I am amazed at all of the efforts that are going on, ours, but as well as so many other companies, so many other colleagues that are doing fantastic things. We partnered up with Henry Ford Hospital to be the corporate match to be able to get people to provide money for the essential services they're giving today. We're providing, I think this Friday, a food giveaway through cards that we're doing through the Detroit Ecumenical community. Great opportunities for us to be able to be helpful and to do what a bank is supposed to do. That's why we're here. We're the largest headquartered bank in Michigan, and we feel the responsibility of that. We feel the obligation. You know, we're moving our headquarters to Detroit. We're in the middle of building a building. We're a little bit stopped now. We are going to get to it, and we're hopefully to still be open in 2022. It's going to be 20-story building on the corner of Woodward and Elizabeth. We're thrilled to put our flag down in downtown Detroit, and we're thrilled to be in the county. We're the largest headquartered bank. We're the 28th largest in the United States today, and that's a responsibility. It's been a long time since Detroit and the state have had a headquartered bank, and we're really excited with the opportunity, and we're going to do everything we can to be the hometown bank that we should be.
Now, Gary, if someone's got a mortgage with your bank and they can't make their mortgage payments right now, is your bank going to foreclose on them, or what is it that you're doing to provide assistance?
We are doing no foreclosures now. We are working with billions of dollars of loans to give people the time, the opportunity, the patience. We are working with tens of thousands of customers to give them this moment to be able to be sure that they can get back on their feet. And that's our job, and we are doing it. We have modified literally billions of dollars of loans to make sure that over the next 90 days or 120 days, our customers will be strong when they come out of this. And we really feel that responsibility and a great opportunity.
Now, you mentioned TCF Bank was the 28th largest bank in the country, but you're in the top 1% of SBA loans. And tell us a little bit about that.
So we are a preferred SBA lender. We're among the top 1% of banks with that designation. And we are deep into SBA loaning. We think that is a opportunity for a headquartered bank in a state like Michigan and this county and in Detroit to be able to work with the small businesses. If small businesses are not strong, communities are not strong. It's really what make up the communities. And today, as you talked about with the county executive, we have opportunities to really give them the time and the space to be able to pay their employees, to be able to take care of their rent, to take care of the moment when they're closed down and really very concerned about whether or not they'll be able to open up again. This Wayne County program that you've launched with us, it's $10 million. We think it'll get to $14 million. We've already committed 100 loans. We're into millions of dollars. As you said, $750,000 has already been turned out to the small businesses. We have had, I think, 250 inquiries One of my favorite is my favorite coffee shop in Grandmont, Rosedale, Lindsay Marr's Town Hall Cafe on Grand River. You should visit it when you can. Wonderful location. We've got auto repair shops, carpet installers, an optometrist, collision shops, Westland-based seller of detergent and cleaning supplies. He's been around for 29 years. We want to make sure he's here for another 29 years. We've got downriver men's apparel stores, men's and women's apparel stores. They date back to 1943. We want to make sure that they get to 2043. And these loans that you're doing are helping tremendously.
Gary, I'm getting a lot of technical questions about the loan. So take me through it a little bit. What is the interest rate? What are the terms? How can somebody get a hold of one?
Okay, so first of all, we've got 15 offices in Wayne County. All they got to do is go on the tcf.com or the chemicalbank.com website. They'll see the opportunity to hook into a series of phone numbers and different zip codes. They can call, which they're doing. We've got over 200 people working from home who are responding to those calls, and they can hook in through that. They can contact any one of the 15 offices, which are still open, and we're ready to serve them. The terms of the loans are a 1-year term. It's interest only for the first year, for the first 6 months. It's 0 to 2%. The average has been 1%. It's $5,000 to $50,000, and it's really easy to get. It's as easy any bank has ever given an opportunity for small business, and we want to give away all the money that we possibly can.
Some of the questions that are being asked are, what is it that the bank needs for collateral? Are you using credit scores? Do you have to be a TCF member, or do you have to have an account with TCF to be able to qualify for this loan?
Okay, so you don't have to be a TCF customer. We're finding out that as soon as they get the loan, they become our customer because they want to be, but nobody is forced into a TCF customer relationship until they do this loan with us, and they don't even have to stay with TCF. The loans are really easy to get. You got to turn in your income tax. You got to tell us what the hardship is, and you got to tell us what you're going to use the money for. And it's a very simple process. And our team knows that they are doing something here that is so vital for the future of this county. You've got 60,000 small businesses in your county. We'd like to get as many of them into the program as we can. I salute the county commission and the Wayne County executive for quickly expanding the program. We started with just the low and moderate income areas and businesses, and today it's the full county, and we're thrilled to participate in it.
I'm really glad you said that. Laurel Hess asked, she's a small business and she was located in the suburban Wayne County. And originally this was only done in low-income census tracts. And then the county commission expanded it. So now, if you are anywhere in Wayne County, can you qualify for this loan?
Anywhere in Wayne County, and we're looking for businesses to come our way. We want you to apply, and we want you to be able to be successful in getting this loan. We'd like to get this money out as quickly as possible. I think the county executive said it best. This is going to be a short period where we're going to have to do everything we possibly can to assist those small businesses, and this is one great opportunity to help.
Are there any fees associated with the application?
No fees.
One of the questions that we're getting asked is, are banks being overwhelmed with the amount of applications, and will that stop somebody from being able to get this loan?
No, there is nobody that won't apply, that won't get consideration for this loan at our bank, that's for sure. And we are not overwhelmed. We've got plenty of team members who are committed to doing this. I have to tell you, we have about 5,000 people at home today. I have never seen anybody work harder than the team that we have at TCF. We're talking at 6:30 in the morning, and we're talking at 10:30 at night. And the whole goal is to make sure that we do our part to help these kinds of businesses, to help the folks in Wayne County, to help the homeowners who are trying to get mortgages and are trying to hold on to their houses. That's our job and our responsibility, and we're thrilled to be able to do it.
I got two more questions for you. And one is, if somebody is coming in to apply for a Wayne County loan, is TCF also talking to them about the Payment Protection Program loan that the feds are offering through the stimulus package?
Yes. So what happened is the United States government very smartly put together a fantastic program called Paycheck Protection Program. It's basically an opportunity to borrow 2.5 times a business's average monthly payroll. You need 500 employees or less. Our bank has already taken in 14,000 applications in just under 2 weeks. It's $2.5 billion in requests and nearly 1,000 from Wayne County. And
Wow.
it is no bar to being able to get the program that we've put in place. They can apply for both. We're encouraging them to apply for both. And we're hopeful that we'll get those through the system as quickly as possible. We've already started funding the PPP. We're seeing some great businesses that just need a little bit of time to get through this very difficult period. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure they get through it.
Great. One last question very quickly. Can nonprofits apply for the Wayne County loan?
Not only can nonprofits apply, we're encouraging them to apply. It's the nonprofits and the small businesses and the communities that they work in that are really the vitality of every single city and community that we live in. And we want those nonprofits who are struggling through this. Donations are down. They're not at their offices. They're not able to do the things they would like to do. We're encouraging nonprofits. We've got a whole list of nonprofits that are already in the PPP application process, and we're doing everything we can to help them as well. And many of them are not our customers, frankly. We do want to serve our customers first, and we're working to get them through the process, but there are non-customers who applied, and we didn't turn them away.
Well, Gary, thank you. Thank you very much. You are the largest bank in the state of Michigan. You are headquartered here in Wayne County, and we appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you very much, Khalil. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Next up, our guest is, as this county executive put it, a lion in the state legislature, Mr. Rep.Abdullah. Hammoud, are you there?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
How are you doing, sir?
So far, so good. Big shout out to all the work that your team has been doing. To Wayne County Executive, Mr. Warren Evans, has been doing a phenomenal job leading us here at the county, as well as to the heads of Tcf. And obviously, my two sisters in Congress who are doing a phenomenal job. So we have one heck of a team going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, listen, I want to jump right into it. You know, a few weeks ago, the Michigan legislature voted to expand the governor's powers to be able to handle COVID-19, and in turn, the governor extended her executive orders. Tell us, do you think that was a smart decision? And tell us all what went into that.
Yeah, everything we examine when we speak to the COVID-19 pandemic, you really have to put on your public health lens and your public health hat. And so examining the situation that was at hand, we understood that we had not hit our apex or the peak rate of infections here in the state of Michigan. And so it was wise of us to move forward with the governor on and expanding her state of emergency deadline to the end of the month of April, and to revisit that conversation hopefully in the next few weeks. But then, you know, once you extend the state of emergency, that's what allows the governor to utilize other tools that she has as the executive authority, such as implementing the stay home order. And so we have seen that the stay home order has been very effective from a public health perspective. It's been a very strong public health intervention. We are seeing other governors that refuse to enact similar orders. And now, unfortunately, the people of that state are paying the price. We're seeing clusters of COVID-19 happening. But here in Michigan, we have seen a flattening of the curve. But with the flattening of the curve, we have to always be cognizant, reassess, make sure that we don't let off the gas pedal of public health intervention too early, because we don't want any new clusters to boom. We don't want any new peaks. We really want to level out and make sure that if we want it to have a strong economic rollout, we have to have a strong public health rollout. And the two policies are very much enshrined.
What do you say, though, to somebody that's watching this program or a small business that says, you know, we hear you, you know, we've got to be safe, but we have to use common sense as well. There are businesses out there that by their very nature practice social distancing, you know, lawnmower services and car washes and things like that. What do you say to a business that says to you, why can't we have a middle ground? Why can't we roll this out slowly so we can keep part of our economy going while taking care of the public health?
Well, first and foremost, you know, in order to keep the economy going for the long run, it's not about granting exemptions for one or two industries here or there. So I'm making sure that we come out of this public health pandemic in a very solid state. Secondly, the room for error is too low. It's too high, excuse me. And what do I mean by this? What we're dealing with is a very infectious disease. Now, compared to the regular influenza, to the regular flu, if I had the regular flu, on average, I would infect 1.3 people. 10 layers down, I would be responsible for 13 infections. For COVID-19, on average, I would infect 3 people. That doesn't seem like a big difference. But 10 layers down, I would be responsible for over 50,000 infections. So the room for error is very high, and we can't provide exemptions in several industries, or else we risk the opportunity of creating new clusters, new infections, and this thing travels very far. We're still learning more about the disease. We don't necessarily know how it still yet interacts with the weather. We don't know how long services may still be infected. Because even if you are in lawn service, even if you are in other industries, there's still money exchange. You're still touching equipment. You still might be operating with a team of folks and people. If you're asymptomatic, which 20 to 25% of people are, you don't carry any symptoms, but you're still shedding the virus and are still contagious. So there's a lot of room for error. So she's trying to do the best to not provide too many exemptions, to really only allow those really life-saving essential services happening, to keep us on course. And the longer we do this, the quicker we can get back on economic recovery.
How long do you see the executive orders? Do you see it getting extended again, for instance?
I don't know. I think she is leaning on a team of public health experts. She has a team of public health experts, as well as many individuals from various sectors, from labor, from commerce, helping advise her in the pathway moving forward. We have seen other parts of the country begin to regionally come together, multiple states within a region come together to talk about how regionally they would begin to open back up. So I foresee that we possibly take a similar path. I think we got to monitor the data day in and day out and make the wisest decision with the most recent data that we have and go from there.
There have been a lot of questions, particularly from your district, about enforcement. Do you see people complying with a lot of the orders that you mentioned earlier? And you said that we are starting to see the curve flatten a little bit, but talk a little bit about enforcement and how do you see that all working out? There are some citizens who say, if it's my public health, you shouldn't be fining me.
Yeah, so enforcement is happening. And we know that enforcement, you can levy up to $1,000 fine here in the city. It's a possible misdemeanor and further punishment. But what we do know is it's also hard to enforce. If I'm in my car, if I'm driving to a gas station or grocery store, or if I'm just driving for a joyride, you really won't know just by me driving in a car. If I am walking around the block with a person who I live with in the same household, which you're allowed to do, police officer driving by can't determine if that's somebody I live with in the same household or somebody from a separate household. And so enforcement is happening, but it is also difficult on our police officers to determine who is not abiding by the stay home, stay safe executive order. That's why the onus really comes back to us as residents in the state of Michigan. If you don't really care for your own health, care for your neighbors, care for your family, care for your community. The more we abide by the stay home, stay safe order, again, the quicker we can get back to the economic recovery, open back up, and resume, quote unquote, whatever normalcy will be in the post-pandemic era.
Let's talk about small business relief that the state is taking on. A few weeks ago, the MEDC announced a $20 million investment into small businesses, $10 million in grants and $10 million in loans. We are a state of almost 10 million people. And so, you and I have had a lot of discussions about this. Do you think that's enough?
From my perspective, I think it was a first shot at trying to allocate resources to provide businesses that were essentially bleeding and residents that were really struggling with some quick relief, quick efforts. Wayne County obviously received one of the largest recipients of our $10 million grant with the small business loans that are active. More than that, I know the state has filed for many of the federal programming to be allowed here in the state of Michigan. We have received approval for that, such as the Paycheck Protection Program, such as the disaster small business loans through FEMA. So those are all available. I imagine our Congresswoman will speak to that more in detail. But we will need to talk about, we will need more resources. Frankly, one of the things I will be advocating for small businesses and for individuals will be a pandemic mortgage and rent forgiveness fund. For many, your mortgage or your rent payment may be in forbearance, but you're going to have to hit that balloon payment. And for many, they're not going to be able to afford 3 or 4 months worth of rent. And so if we can create some sort of fund that provides payment to the landlords or to the mortgage institutions, so that, if they abide by certain, restrictions, so that people are not going to be forced out of their homes or evicted. For even small business owners, how many of them are going to be able to open back up if they have 3 or 4 months, payments just sitting on a table that they have to pay? So we got to provide assistance to them quickly. And I would love nothing more than to see more grants, but non-taxable income grants. So grants that will not count against you at the end of the year, or more forgivable small business loans that operate in a similar manner. I think that's the best way to try to ignite our economy again.
And you struck a chord there with me, and that the PPP program at the state that the Congresswoman in the waiting room have fought for, I think absolutely does that, and we will get to that. And as we are talking, as she is always fighting for us, Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib is reminding me, everyone, that while there may be 14,000 applications, only 1,000 of which are from Wayne County. So anybody that's watching this show, you just heard Representative Abdullah Hammoud tell you that the state has made all the necessary approvals to get those federal loans available here in the state of Michigan. And so if you're a Wayne County business, please go out and apply. Mr. Hammoud, tell us a little bit about the MEDC loans at the state. The interest rates are incredibly favorable at 0.25%. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so they're extremely low interest rates, and loans to eligible borrowers must be between $50,000 or more, or capped at around $200,000. And the eligible businesses is an industry outlined through an executive order that's been impacted in some manner due to the COVID-19 outbreak. It's companies that have less than 100 employees, and the working capital goes towards supporting payroll expenses, rent, mortgage payments, utility expenses, really any of the operating expenses. And if you can demonstrate that you're unable to access credit through other means, you would qualify here at the MEDC. So it's a great program.
Great. I think we may have lost Abdullah Hammoud just from a connection standpoint. I'm sure he'll be joining us shortly. I know Mohammed is asking, are there gradual openings of small businesses in the plan? Hey, there he is. Mr. Representative, you're back with us. We've got a lot of questions based on a lot of the things that you said, particularly the things that you're going to be fighting for. One question from Miranda we're asking is how are you going to treat the forbearance once the forbearance term is up? And will you support, or will there be a full amount be available once it's due?
Yes. So currently the executive order, there's an executive order that has a moratorium on evictions. And so people aren't being thrown out of their houses, whatever it might be. So the idea of the fund that I have in mind, and I'm working with several of my colleagues to put this forth, is that we would provide the relief to the landlords or to the mortgage institutions on behalf of the residents, whether you're the small business owner or the individual occupying an apartment or a home. That way you don't have a balloon payment. So when the forbearance is over, you just go back to resuming normal payment. There should be no interest being charged on any additional fees. Those institutions or that landlord cannot double dip, so they can't ask you for additional payments and then try to collect from the state as well. And there should be no increase in the cost of rent as well. So we want to add some stipulations as to who would be able to access this source of funds. It's in the early stages of designing this fund, and I'm hoping that we're able to garner not just bipartisan support, but support also from the executive administration.
The next question is the state have any plans to help business open up gradually? And that's what Mohammed is asking. Is there, sort of cleanliness issues? Are there permitting issues? Is there a certificate that's going to be required? All those kinds of things.
Yeah. So as of now, I think a lot of those, smaller details have not been determined. I do know that the governor has a committee and is expanding a committee of possible legislators to come together to talk about the reopening in a bipartisan fashion, but also bring in, leaders from various sectors to the table, leading with the public health mind, obviously first and foremost, to determine how can we go about this in the most informative way, leading with the science, leading with the research, leading with the evidence. So that, again, we don't have any peaks. We're not back to where we are today in a few months from now. So they are discussing plans. I don't have any of those details currently at this moment. It will take some time to put together, but we can also look to other aspects of the world that are going through this, that are a few weeks or months ahead of us, and other aspects of the country that we currently see kind of ahead of us as to what possibly may occur here in Michigan.
And I know Abe is asking, will the stay-at-home order get extended after the end of April? And I know you answered that a little bit earlier, but maybe is there the possibility of a slow rollout? I've heard a lot of public health officials say that if the world were to turn back on like a light switch, that there would be flare-ups. When all this is over, how do you anticipate just the world getting back to its normal life?
I don't think, we use the word normal very loosely. I don't know what the post-COVID-19 normal will ever be again. I think we're always going to have some level of public health precaution until we've eradicated COVID-19, frankly, off the globe. And that'll require a vaccine and access through global partnerships for vaccinating the entire population across the globe, which, is, 18 months out at best. In terms of extending the stay-home emergency, first and foremost, there would have to be an extension of the governor's state of emergency declaration here in the state of Michigan. If that declaration is provided, and there's a debate over if the governor can do this on her own or if she needs legislative approval, if that is given, and however that's debated, then a stay-home declaration can be extended. As of right now, we have not heard anything about being extended past April, but I imagine it won't be a quick dissipation of this executive order and we resume life back to normal. I think there will be a slow rollout. The details yet to be determined, but happy to have those conversations once we have more information.
Well, Representative Abdullah Hammoud, thank you. Thank you for your time. This has been a lot of good information. There are still a lot of questions we cannot get to. If we can't answer them, we are going to make sure we get the answers from you and make sure we bring it back to our audience. So thank you for your time today.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Khalil.
Now, next up, we have two of the most widely known names in Congress, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell and Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. And here we're going to be talking about all the federal assistance that might be coming in terms of the CARES Act, as well as might be coming next in the very next CARES Act. And I know first up we have Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, but Mr. Hashim could help us out, and we're going to try to get at some point here both Congresswomen on at the same time so that they can ask some questions. There we are. How are you ladies doing?
Hey, I miss my Debbie. We used to sit next to each other and get stuff done for Wayne County, but it's okay. We're doing it virtually, but thank you so much for including us.
And we do talk 10 times a day.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Well, look, let's jump in on this. The CARES Act passed, $2.2 trillion of stimulus into our economies. It's at least $350 billion in that into small businesses. I mean, the way I like to look at it is that there are things for our audience, for small businesses and for people and their employees. So, Congresswoman Dingell, let's turn to you and please tell us, what do you think is important in this bill and what do you think businesses should know?
So we've actually passed 3 bills. We're working on 3.5, which may or may not get passed this week. I hope that it does. And then we'll be working on a 4th bill, which I actually call CARE Bill 2 on steroids. And what we've been trying to do is, first and foremost, we have to make sure that everybody's healthy and safe, has access to the doctor, isn't afraid to get a coronavirus test because they can't afford to be out for 2 weeks or they can't afford the test. We wanted to make sure people had sick pay. We want to make sure people have paid family leave. And those were issues that were addressed in the 1st and 2nd bills, and we can talk about those more later. But by the 3rd care package, coronavirus 19, what we call the care package, we wanted to make sure that people felt safe. There have been a lot of people that have lost their job or have been furloughed. They're worried about how they're going to pay for food, how they're going to have basic living expenses. So we put money in to expand unemployment for a longer period of time. And I think, by the way, in CARE 2, we will probably expand it for another 2 months to 6 months, or at least that's my hope. And I think Rashida agrees with me. I know she does. She'd probably. But we want to make sure that there was enough money in it. You've seen the number of unemployment applications that have been made. We are assured by the Treasury Secretary himself the money will be there. The number of people filing has stressed the system, but the state is doing the best that they can and working as fast as they can to take care of people. Then we wanted to make sure that small businesses, restaurants, who are really worried about their survival, would have access to funds. I think Gary Torgow did a good job of describing the PPE, the disaster small business loans that we talked about, and Rashida and I can answer those questions. Small businesses that protect their workers, those are becoming grants. But again, I think we're going to need to expand the amount of time on some of these as it relates to workers. And we know we've got to put more money into it, which is what we're trying to do with 3.5, get more money in for those small business loans, and then ensure that those dollars are there in the CARE 2. And then the other thing that was done in the last package, many people listening to us may work for one of the OEMs, one of the car companies or a supplier company, and they too need liquidity. And that was their programs in there to ensure they have liquidity. And the hospitals are, because they're not seeing patients, they're not doing elective surgery, have had liquidity problems, a lot of issues like that.
Congressman Tlaib, we're getting a lot of questions here on Facebook. A lot of it is surrounding the PPP program. I know you two are in touch with your constituents more than anybody. I don't have to tell you what the questions are coming in. Tell us,
Yeah, and I think we need to go back to the basics of what PPE is and what it covers and so forth. And I know for folks at TCF and folks at the county, it is something that we're living and breathing right now, but just to get back to the basics. But first, I think Congresswoman Dingell and I are so thankful, so incredibly thankful to the small business community for stepping up, some of which have donated food to hospitals that have just gone beyond what they're even required to do as just being incredibly great neighbors. And that's why we have to really work hard to keep you all in our communities, in our local communities. And many of you, when you're small business, true small business, meaning less than 100 employees, less than 500 employees, whatever you want to say, but I know the true small employee businesses are the ones who employ a lot of our neighbors. And so we just want to thank you so much for stepping up. And just doing an incredible job supporting the community you work in and you do your business in. So as you heard from Congresswoman Dingell, absolutely billions of dollars, I think it's 349 or so billions of dollars came in. But a lot of folks ask me in my office, like, what does that cover? So yes, the Paycheck Protection Program covers payroll costs, most mortgage interest, utility cost, y'all, rent. It also includes payroll cost capped at $100,000 a year for each employee. It also includes salary and wages of tips, health insurance premiums, retirement benefits, which is so important. So if you're providing that, it's a cost, severance pay, vacation, parental, family, medical leave, and sick leave. So it covers all of that. I know that folks will see, questions of how fast are we supposed to function? Well, it depends on the bank. So when you do apply and you're working with the bank, it's very important to stick to the person. And one of the tips I always tell folks is write down who you speak to, follow up with that person, develop a relationship with that person at that bank on your loan, email that person, stay connected to that person. I know SBA said within certain 3 weeks, they want to be able to have these loans in people's accounts to be able to help these small businesses. But again, it really does depend on the banks. And that's where you're going to see a lot of Congresswoman Dingell and I as watchdogs and watching the implementation of this. I've personally already checked, Bank of America was denying folks access to these SBA loans because they had to have prior client relationship. That is not required when you apply. So if you're hitting a bump, don't think you're not going to, you should contact your member of Congress, contact the county. Other tip that I've been telling a lot of small businesses, you all are part of sometimes members of these smaller chambers in your community. There's one in Downriver, in Western Wayne. I know in Southwest Detroit, there's Southwest Detroit Business Association. If you're part of the Detroit region, you can afford that membership, then great. Then you should be reaching out to a lot of those organizations that are going to have direct connection to a lot of these banks and be able to answer a lot of your questions that might not be answered on this webinar. I also really, really think it's critical for you all to know, because I know we're already getting pushback of these are some of the fixes that need to happen. So in there, it's supposed to be a loan for 8 weeks. I want you to know small businesses have already said we need that to be longer. We hear you. I can tell House leadership, Congresswoman Dingell and I have expressed that needs to be expanded. One, we know we need more money. No, hands down, we're pushing for $250 billion more in the CARES 2 package. The other two,
the 3.5. We're trying to get more money in the.
Absolutely. That's for the CARES 2. So just want you to know, for me, CARES 2 has to be a much more sustainable, much more permanent fix to a lot of these issues we're seeing now. The other really important thing that I've been hearing, because Wayne County is a very diverse community, and we have a really incredibly diverse small businesses, some that are home-based, right? Some that are different sizes, some are just connected with other larger industries that when that went down, they also were impacted. So I want you to know that there's a plan to put another half of that money to be channeled to community-based financial institutions that serves farmers. I know you don't know, there are farmers in our community, folks. Family, women, minority, veteran-owned small businesses and nonprofits, especially our nonprofits. And then, so some of the other things is removing PPE, we're focused on, and we're going to advocate for, as Debbie knows, to remove the cap on the non-payroll expenses. We need this stuff to be much more flexible for you all. Again, you're diverse in your small businesses. And we need to streamline the so-called, there's a requirement, again, your banks will go over this with you, know your customer lending requirements that have allowed banks to give preferential treatment to their existing clients. Again, we're pushing back against that, and we're going to basically say, no, you can't do that. And then we want to create, and I'm sorry, one last thing. We want to create a much more generous forgiveness requirement. You all know the program here, the payment protection program, it can lead to not a loan, but an actual grant. And it can turn into that if you follow certain guidelines. And again, you can work with your bank on that. I have some specifics on that as well if folks have questions on that. So those are some of the checkpoints. Whichever bank, write down the name, create a relationship with that person, check in with your member of Congress if you think there's delays or some other issues with implementation. Check with your local chamber of commerce that you have a relationship with, or if you don't, it's okay. But if you do, this is the time to check in with them. And then lastly, I think it's critically important that you continue to advocate to some of the fixes. So just because you're taken care of and you got your loan, that's great. But let's make sure we pull everybody up together and make sure we fix some of these issues. And the last thing, Khalil, I promise, is, if you're in Detroit, Hamtramck, or Highland Park, I just want you to know techtowndetroit.org are offering $5,000. That can make a huge difference. So if you're home-based, if you have a physical location, that's fine. But they're available now until April 17th. So if you are located in those places, please check out techtown.org and make application to that. These are grants as well, I believe. It's an emergency fund that they put together. So that's some of the resources that are out there.
So I think that's actually a perfect segue where you ended to talk about some of the questions, because I'm getting tons of questions here in the scroll. The PPP program in particular. It seems like that the county executive, Mr. Torgow, Abdullah Hammoud, and both of you are going around a common theme here, in that most times when small businesses get a grant, that turns into taxable income. You two have worked very, very hard to make sure that was not the case in the CARES Act. Now, here's the questions that I'm getting. The questions are, what do I have to do to convert it into a grant that's not taxable?
Yeah. So I'm just going to read what is in the guidelines. But again, let us know if it's just not working. So it's forgivable up to 100% if used to maintain employee and compensation levels. The CARES Act allows employers to choose the baseline employee and compensation level average of either, and again, it gets complicated, the period from February 15th through January 30th, or from January 1st to February 29th, 2020. The employee level, the so-called, quote, full-time equivalent headcount during that loan. So that's how they kind of look at it. And the compensation level must be reduced by more than 25% of any employee that made less than $100,000 on an annual basis in 2019. And then rehiring. This is another requirement. You have until June 30th, 2020 to restore your full-time employment and salary levels of any changes made between February 15th, 2020 to April 26, 2020. The loan forgiveness is a sliding scale. It maintains 60% of full-time equivalent employee level, or 60% of loan will be forgivable. Now, I will get this to Executive Warren Evans. We'll put it on the website somewhere. It will be on my website. I know Congresswoman Dingell will have it on her website. But again, I think this is really important for you all to know. There are these steps that you have to put into place for you to make those loans into grants.
And let me say on top of this, when we're talking about extending the 8 weeks, this is one of the examples that, look, I don't sugarcoat anything. I don't think we're going to reopen on April 30th. When we do reopen, it's got to be based on scientific facts, and we have to worry about the safety of every human being. We can't bring somebody back to life. We are going to help you. We are going to be here. We're going to restart the economy when it is safe. Therefore, you have to remember that a month ago, we weren't locked in our houses, and most of these programs did not exist.
Right.
And when we passed them 3 weeks ago, we weren't envisioning quite where we are now. So we have to fine tune and care too. So there's some things, I'll be on doing a teletown hall like this in reading exactly what Rashida's reading. And I have people who've been on with SBA, and SBA's in the back room. And it's not what we are reading or what the toolkit that we got from the speaker is saying. We don't know that we have to go fix that if we don't hear from you.
That's right.
And my small business owners and my restaurant owners, I talk with on a regular basis, every day, 10 times a day. And they're the ones that tell us what we need to go fix.
Right.
So you also need to know not every detail is as we want it to be. And SBA, I'm glad you're here because you pulled out a couple things last week because
they did it to me too, but I hope it's because they're going to fix the system and the program.
They are going to fix it.
So Khalil, I do see some questions. I just want folks, somebody asked, hey, I have a cleaning service. Can I apply? Absolutely. Right. Another person said, hey, I'm 1099s apply for these programs. Absolutely. Also, if you're 1099 person, and we've expanded unemployment benefits, so you should probably definitely apply for unemployment benefits. There was also quite. Thank you.
We've seen a bunch of people asking.
Absolutely, I think that's an important point. A lot of people ask about nonprofits and whether they can apply for the loan. Congresswoman Dingell, I want to ask you, and the tail end of what Congresswoman Tlaib was talking about, unemployment being expanded. The CARES Act has a lot, not just for small businesses, but for people who work for those businesses as well. Unemployment, obviously the $1,200 checks, we're getting a lot of questions about the $1,200 checks. When are people going to get to them? What's going to come in the CARES Act? Do you think that there'll be another influx there? Talk about that and talk about some of the unemployment opportunities that may exist.
Well, for starters, I see that a number of people have asked us if they will have to pay taxes on the stimulus check. No, you do not. Both Rashida and I are going to press for another stimulus check because nobody thought when we passed CARE 1 that we would, if we had thought about it and been listening to the scientists, we might have known we were going to be home this long. But none of us wanted to think that we were going to.
I predicted it. I just want you to know. I said because you need reoccurring payments. It's hard to reboot this large economy. It is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But so we're going to fight very hard, and I will pass the House to have a second stimulus check. We put, there, Lindsey Graham and others are talking about, and actually, quite frankly, I'm trying to think it through. I've had restaurant owners that I love that are really great people who pay benefits, who think that some people not only are you getting your unemployment benefits, and they're now 4 months, where I think CARE 2 will extend to 6 months, but there's a $600 payment on top of that because we don't want people to worry. We're trying to keep people calm and keep that, I call it the framework of a civil society, that they have food, they've got a roof over their head, they can go to the doctor when they want to, and Lord forbid we don't get these horrible storms they keep predicting and we lose electricity or cable. Right. But we also need to, how do we reward the people that are working? They deserve hazardous pay. We need to not only thank the nurses and the doctors, but the grocery store workers, the pharmacy workers, the bus drivers, the truck drivers, the post office workers are all keeping us safe and keeping our lives going. And we've got to figure out how we take care of those that are stuck at home. And some of us are beginning to get antsy, but I'm going to stay here as long as I have to. But how do you also take care of those that are keeping us safe?
So there are members of Congress, including myself, that want recurring payments. So the $1,200 plus $500 for, child dependents folks, that should be coming out this week. We were told to be mailed tomorrow. Yep, they were told. Now, if you have direct deposit, you should be seeing in your account. Again, let us know, folks, because we're told by the IRS. I was told yesterday that it was supposed to start yesterday that millions of people were going to get it. Now, there's going to be a gap. There is going to be neighbors of ours that do not file federal returns. We are working with the Accounting Aid Society and some of these other really great free tax program services to figure out what we need to be able to do on the federal level to make it safe for folks, because you all know a lot of our folks do not have access to online to be able to apply for this online, may need to again have assistance over the phone. So we want to try to work with the IRS to try to target some of the most vulnerable communities. And you all know, as small businesses, the more money I put in real people, you have customers that can pay. I personally have been pushing for debit cards, which are much cheaper and much more effective. And I know if I get them debit cards, they can call you and order and get it delivered, all those kinds of things. So many of our folks are so unbanked or underbanked.
Right.
And so even getting the checks, y'all, the banks, I worry about people going to the banks trying to cash them and all these other things.
I think Congresswoman Tlaib, I think you're bringing up a good point, because we're getting a lot of questions on how long it is taking folks to either get their checks, process their payments, or process the loan. Talk a little bit about some of the administrative inefficiencies that you have seen and what you plan to do about it.
So I think she's laughing because you know what we're going to do is we're going to do what you all do to us as members of Congress. You're going to pick up the phone and you're going to yell at somebody to say, fix it. But SBA said 3 weeks. Now we just have to make sure. Now SBA is not always in charge, right? They have to depend on the banks and the process the banks are implementing. So we want to not yell at SBA. We're not going to do that. We're their partners, and we're going to make sure this works for everyone. The checks for stimulus should be in the mail, should be going through the mail. Now,
they were promised yesterday. Now they're saying tomorrow.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
So, but I want you to know this is the time now, though, to be advocating and supporting reoccurring payments. And I love some of my small businesses, specifically in 13 District Strong, who had a call with me, said, great, we don't want this. We want you to advocate for this. But they also advocated for their customers to get reoccurring payments because they know when we have easy access to this kind of helping lift up everybody, that they're going to be able to have paying customers.
Do you see employer unemployment expanding in the next CARES Act bill?
I am guessing 6 months.
Yeah.
Or don't you think, Rashida?
Yep.
I mean,
10 million. The numbers we saw are like 3 times larger than what we saw during the Great Recession.
Wow.
And, I think I want you all to know, members of Congress, we rely a lot on that data. We rely not only on the help experts to figure out, but we rely a lot on the data because we have to make your small business, so you know this, making these assumptions based on these folks coming to us and saying, these are the levels compared to what we saw in the Great Recession. This is like 3 times higher. So we see 10 million people applied for unemployment across the nation. And I think it's higher today. But I do think this is a critical time to start, again, thinking about permanent fixes, expanding, and allowing more flexibility.
The other thing I really want to make a point on right now is, as we're talking about checks coming out, there are a lot of scams out there. And I'm very worried as people start to get their stimulus checks. I've had some very sophisticated scams sent to me, and I'm sending to people and going, is this a scam or is this real? And I wish I could say that there were not these con people out there, that there weren't people, but I am telling everybody to be very, very careful. From phone calls, nobody should be asking you for personal information. Don't provide your personal information. If you get an Amazon or a Google or anything, go to your original site and put in the information. I got a cable bill yesterday that was.
It's so sad to see this. And Attorney General Dana Nessel is on top of it, but it's going to be word of mouth and us talking to each other and our neighbors, our Black clubs, social media sites that you all might be part of. Don't assume your family or friends know about this. Warn them. Scammers are using this opportunity. And, for folks, when you get the economic stimulus package, please go to a banking institution. Don't go to the local store where they're charging you. No offense to all the small businesses listening. I don't want you charging 3%, $300 off of the $1,200 and they walk away with $900. That's just not fair. And so just want to encourage folks to be really cautious and very, again, very diligent about how they proceed with a lot of these decisions they have to make.
Great. Well, look, this has been excellent. And I know that we could spend hours about the CARES Act, what might be coming, all the troubles that small businesses are going into. And I think that's why we have folks from the SBDC, Wendy Thomas, and SBA in the waiting room. I want everybody to know that we also have 8 business development managers at Wayne County that is not responsible for only Wayne County programs. Our job is to make sure we get the business the resource they need. And so if you need us to contact Rashida's office or Congressman Dingell's office or any one of their staff members to get them the questions that you need, you can always feel free. Our staff is an extension of their staff, and we will be working hard to get anybody in Wayne County all the things that they want. Now, before we go, Congresswoman Tlaib, if you have one thing you have to say to everybody, and I thank you for sending your email on the website. We'll make sure to get that out there. And the same thing for Congresswoman Dingell. if there is a tip that you could tell a small business, and that's mostly our audience right now, that's going to be in the CARES Act or might be coming up in the CARES Act, what would it be?
I mean, is to take action and apply. Apply for these programs. Don't wait until somebody calls you. You have to take the initiative and apply for a lot of these programs coming out. And I want you to talk to your, other businesses and small businesses, create a small network. I've seen that really being very successful. A small network of folks that are talking to each other consistently about changes, experiences with various banks and so forth. This is the time to grow that network. And again, lean on each other and show up for each other during this time. And then, really reach out to Debbie Dingell and I. If you're in 13th District or 12th District, my email is Rashida, RASHIDA, @mail, mail.house.gov. Thank you again for this opportunity, Khalil and Executive Warren Evans.
Thank you for having us. Congresswoman Dingell, the last word goes to you.
I'll say I'm D2 at mail.house. And Rashida and I, we do want you to know that we're there. Nobody's alone right now. And I want to be kind to the people that are trying to help everybody, because it is a stressful time for everybody, but nobody's alone. And Rashida and I will be there for you. We work together every single day to work for you.
Well, thank you. And thank you both. I want to thank all of our panelists.
And we give Khalil a hard time too.
Every day. But that's okay. That's what we do. I do want to thank all of our panelists. Thank you for taking the time, Congresswoman. I know you two are very, very busy. I know the county executive is busy. I know, Gary, I know you're very busy. I know the state representative is very, very busy. So I want to thank you all for joining us. On the way out, the only thing I can say is the smart people on this panel who are all putting resources into things is a great sign that there is hope at the light of the end of the tunnel. The folks would not be putting the kind of effort and resources to give people a little bit of relief, now, if we didn't think that we were all going to make out of this alive. So thank you all for anybody. And if anybody continues to have any questions on either of these web streams, please reach out to us at www.waynecounty.com. Click on the economic development page, click on your business development manager. We have 8 of them that cover different regions of the county, and their job is to work for you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.